Hello, everyone. This week's parsha is Parsha Terumah, and within this parsha, we're going to find out the first commandments to build a Mishkan that Hashem commands Bnei Israel. Now, within this parsha, there's different ways of looking at it. The commentators, in general, have two main approaches. The Ramban will focus on will say that all the occurrences in this parsha, going through Terumah, Tetzaveh, Kitisa, Vayakal, Pekude, those parshot are all following in order. They are chronologically in order. Meanwhile, we'll find that there's an approach led by Rashi, which claims that just like the general principle of Ein Mukdam U'Meuchar Torah, that there's no previous, there's no subsequent, there's no real chronological order in the Torah. There are certain paragraphs that are thematically aligned. Now, the Rashi will have this approach, and the Ramban will stick to his usual approach of saying that everything occurs in order. And right now, we're going to focus on what the Ramban says specifically, and we'll see how it ties in with Rashi perhaps later. The Ramban writes, Kasher diber Hashem im Yisrael panim b'panim asher dibrot. Following this approach, where they receive the Torah b'Har Sinai, v'tzivo tam le'dei Moshe k'tzat mitzvot shem k'mo avot l'mitzvoteha shel Torah. So Bnei Israel receives the mitzvot from Moshe, and now Bnei Israel is ready to become a full nation. They have this idea of grouping together b'Har Sinai. But now they need a mikdash, a conduit, a way for them to be able to connect to God fully. So the Ramban notes that this is the reason why the ensuing parsha are going to be discussing the building of the Mishkan by Vayakal Pekude, but the commandments of the Mishkan are coming immediately following Har Sinai. Bnei Israel is worthy of having the Shekhinah rest amongst them. This is a little bit of a different approach than we'll see with Rashi. Rashi says, Ein Mukdam U'Meuchar Torah, and this is in Parsha Kitisa. The Ramban disagrees obviously with this and says that there has to be a chronological order. He believes that the chronological order will make sense in this case, as opposed to Rashi, which claims Maaseh Egel Kodem and Tzivoy Melechet Mishkan, that the Maaseh Egel we read about in Parsha Kitisa, where Bnei Israel sins and builds the golden calf and worships it, Rashi is claiming that this occurs before the commandment to build a Mishkan in Parsha Terumah Tetzaveh, meaning that Rashi will realign the paragraphs. Now, on the base level, we could think of the approach of this argument that Rashi sees the Mishkan as almost something that's second nature, something that should not have been given ideally. Now, we could look at it this way. Rashi would maybe understand it this way, since the Egel was the led to the commandment to build a Mishkan. Now, that's one way of looking at it. In that case, the Ramban would approach this and say that, no, it is an ideal state. It is something that we read before, but Israel is worthy of receiving the Shekhinah fully. So that could be the debate between Ramban and Rashi, though ideally, we don't necessarily want to explain the Mishkan, according to Rashi, as something that's second nature. So maybe next week we'll look more into that in Parshat Terumah itself within Rashi's commentary. Though as far as this unit itself, we recognize within the Ramban that now Bnei Israel is fully worthy of receiving the Mishkan. And the Mishkan, we'll see in the Ramban's words, so the Mishkan will be a portable Har Sinai of sorts. Bnei Israel received this unbelievable revelation at Har Sinai, and they'll be able to take it with them through the Midbar, through the Mishkan. And Rashi as well has this approach as well, though it'll be a little different, and we'll try and see conceptually why Rashi prefers this thematic organization of the parshiyot as opposed to chronological order next week. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.